just want to start
Okay.
saying thank you for joining us and welcome to Better Together Live, where we create helpful community connections when it matters the most. I am Jamila Bowman, your host and the Community Relations Coordinator here at Therapy Works. And today I'm very happy to be joined by Julie Engels from Roots Collaborative. Thank you for being with us, Julie.
Thank you so much, Jamil, for inviting us to join. Although it's just me, I do have two very important partners. One would be my husband, Julie Engels, and the other, our daughter, Courtney. And all of us are in recovery and work together to help families who are they usually come to us when they're in crisis, which they don't have to, but that's, as I'm sure you can relate to on your team, that's usually when people reach out for help.
That's correct. And that's why we started Better Together Live, to highlight local resources like Roots Collaborative so people can see what's out there. So I'm going to let you explain what you do and what is Roots Collaborative. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, Roots Collaborative is a family-owned business, and we help families who have challenges with the illness of addiction, alcoholism, eating disorders, mental health challenges. It can be a gaming addiction. There's a lot of different ways that the illness expresses itself from a coping mechanism strategy. And usually, like I had said, a family member will call us because somebody in their family at the moment is in a crisis and they want to help them get into a safer place. And so we practice most usually the invitational intervention model. And so when a family member is in crisis, our whole goal is to pull the entire family together and help them all heal as a family unit. As I'm sure you can relate to, that oftentimes families will reach out and they'll want one person to get quote unquote fixed or cured from the illness, whether it's a drinking problem or it's an eating disorder such as bulimia or anorexia. But what we know from research and evidence-based practices that when the whole family starts healing together, the person who the family was originally concerned about has even greater chances of lasting recovery when everybody is healing at the same time.
So let me ask you this. When they make the first step on calling you, does the person who is suffering from any kind of addiction or eating disorder, is that person willing to participate the first time?
Well, that's not, unfortunately, no. However, the way that our model works, the invitation works, is that we invite everybody to participate. So the person of concern is invited to that first meeting. So there's other different intervention models, like the Johnson model, for example, where there's more of a surprise element. And they'll walk into the room and all of their loved ones are sitting in the room, and the interventionist will say, oh, well, we're all gathered here today because we're worried about you. And the model in which we use, the invitation, the person of concern is invited along with all the other supportive family network members. And in that meeting, although we will acknowledge at the very beginning that the family's worried about that person of concern, the bulk of the meeting is talking about the family and what the family multi-generationally has experienced for, is a century.
Right.
And we'll ask a lot of questions about what the strengths of the family, and so everything from resilience to loyalty to love to resourcefulness to intelligence to humor. And then we'll ask the family to create a family recovery message. And what that looks like is a family mission statement for recovery. So where we've been, where we are now, and where we would like to go as a family. And then we'll look at the genogram, and physically in the meeting, we're doing the genogram with them, which is essentially a family tree. It's amazing. And so at that point, the person of concern, you know, they might have started out the meeting feeling like they were going to be in trouble. And within a half an hour, they've just completely relaxed because they can see that this challenge is much greater than them. And that we ask the family to heal. And what we think about is you've got these tremendous strengths, and they have been used for survival. And some of those survival tools have been drinking. They have been coping with family stress through nurturing oneself with food. Those are tremendous survival tools, but you know, it's 2020 and we have amazing resources for healing.
We do.
And communication and coming together. And so that's really what we do, is we reposition all of those strengths, and then we start heading towards recovery. And so once the person of concern realizes this, they're usually in a lot of pain. They're ready to go to treatment, even if they haven't raised their hand, like, hey, send me to treatment, I want to go. By the end of the meeting, there's this feeling of being supported in health, and that everyone else is going to also take steps to support not only that person's recovery, but their own. And so that's where we, go ahead.
No, and what I'm saying is, I think it's so important that the person of concern knows that everybody needs to heal at the same time, so that person can actually succeed, right? And have a future, a brighter future.
Yeah,
and
absolutely. And I think that,
them,
go ahead.
No, you're with them every step of the way.
Absolutely. So it's like an analogy that a client used for us was like, we're recovery Sherpas. So we guide the family over a 6-month process, and sometimes longer, and help them with each of those transitions. So whether that's the transition of going into a treatment setting, coming out of a treatment setting, finding the right therapist. So we love you all. And, you know, we are not, we don't have our master's degree in therapy or counseling or psychiatry. So for us, community partners are amazing. Because our clients need deeper levels of support, not just the person of concern. I mean, they're willing to go to treatment and they're surrounded with a team. And then we try to plug and encourage the family members to also find deeper support through therapy. Sometimes people also end up going to treatment as well.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, which is really incredible.
It is incredible. It is incredible. What are the ages of people that you see, you know, this problem, like addiction is?
Well,
more concern.
I wish I could say it had an age and a gender and something specific. However, that's not the case. Typically, our clientele ranges between the ages. I mean, we've had a client as young as 16, and we have a client who, I mean, is not a client anymore, but he went to treatment in Florida and he was 80. So
that's incredible.
It just really vacillates. It is incredible. And I think what's wonderful about having the opportunity to work with a family is that because everybody's on weekly Zoom calls to check in and become accountable for their own recovery and healing, as well as the collective healing, is that people start to become really educated on what optimal mental health looks like. And so the goal is to not have to wait until things become a crisis. And that families, because they're talking and communicating frequently, and it isn't shameful to ask for help or to
Yeah.
talk about some of these challenges, which I think, your team is well aware of, is that at least in Western culture, having a quote unquote illness around mental health or an eating disorder or alcoholism, opioid abuse, all of it has such a cloak of shame.
Yes,
And our
absolutely.
process, as well as I know the work that you all do, is we really invite people to not have any shame, blame, and guilt. I mean, these are just chronic progressive illnesses
Mm-hmm.
that get worse over time without treatment.
Correct.
And when families learn to talk about these sorts of illnesses in a transparent way, then it becomes a lot more obvious when someone is vulnerable. And making a therapy appointment with Therapy Works is a great idea versus something that you have to wait until someone's in so much pain that it seems like even a therapy appointment wouldn't help that.
Right, to make the first call, right? I know.
Mm-hmm.
It is hard. It's really, I love how you explain it. It's so nice. Thank you.
Thank
What
you.
makes Roots Collaborative stand out? And I think I know the answer. I think it's the family unit you guys have. That's what I see.
Yeah.
But what do you say to that?
Yeah, I would say you're accurate in your gut feeling about that.
Yeah.
Is, we are a family. So I have been sober since I was 20 years old, and I'm 52 now. So I have a lifetime of experience with not only being a sober person, I also am in recovery for an eating disorder.
Mm-hmm.
My husband, Clay, has 24 years of sobriety, and he went to his first treatment when he was 16. And then our daughter has close to 4 years of recovery from addiction, and then she's been in recovery for an eating disorder since she's been 16, and now she's going on 23.
That's awesome.
And so a lot of the challenges that we saw and experienced about how to get supported as a family, and then also to not trap somebody in the identified patient role, became really important to us as we saw ourselves doing that once again to our daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And so that pattern of really focusing all the family energy into this one person, and if this one person gets better, everything's going to be perfect. And what we saw was that unless we as a family dove in deeper to our own recovery and started to think about ways in which we were moving through the world that had been handed down to us from our parents and our family trauma, that our daughter, Courtney, wasn't going to get better.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a pivotal moment for us. And that's why when we talk to families, would say we're pretty sharp.
Mm-hmm.
And because we've been there, and then we're also in a parallel healing process. So when we see dynamics in a family, we can support them because we understand.
And you've been there.
We've been there.
And I'm sure that it's such a great tool to connect with your clients, right? Because you've been there, done that, and you survive and you thrive. So you're there for them, right? To help them and guide them.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Well, we have a family that we're working with right now, and we had a lively call this week, and the father sent us a message saying, "Thank you. I was at a loss."
Oh.
Because that dynamic that they were walking through on the family call is a pattern that they're very used to. And so you kind of get in that feedback loop, and to find your way out of it seems challenging because everybody's doing what they've always done.
Right. It's a vicious circle, right?
Yeah. And we can see the pattern and shed some light on it, and then ask them what tools they think they could employ to have a different outcome. And so I think different than therapy, where a therapist might go into like, well, why is this happening and how do you feel? And which is all vital.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
When we're on a call with a family, we're more looking at like, okay, this is a pattern that the family
Right,
seems to be in, and then asking them, how is this familiar? And what do you all think you could do that would be more effective? And what
right,
resources would you need? And then they can own it in a different way
right.
versus us pointing stuff out and
Pointed
then
out.
people get
Mhm.
defensive.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. Wow, this
Yeah,
is really good. So I have a question for you. I'm very curious
sure.
about this. How are you finding ways to stay connected to the community, your clients, your friends, your family during this time? Anything new or different you are doing in your business or in your personal life right now? I mean, we all are, but I'm curious about you
Well, I would say number one, that Zoom, as much
guys.
as
Yeah.
it's it's like the love-hate relationship with it, right? Where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm Zooming again. But
Yep.
at the same time, I I see for us
Mm-hmm.
and other families that it's being able to communicate on FaceTime and through technology, and because it's so necessary, that we're connecting with our
Mm-hmm.
family, our 12-step meetings, our clients more frequently. And it's not even so much the frequency, it's the depth that people are
Yeah.
sharing.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
that I think is amazing. So even when we were talking before we started the interview and you were
Mm-hmm.
saying, that your family is at home and everybody's,
Yes.
in their own corners doing school or work or
Yep.
talking with friends. And then it's like, there goes dad, there goes mom, the dog. And I think it's really normalized that we're all human. And in some cases, like whether it's work or school, this whole cloak of like professionalism, which we're not allowed to have a
Mm-hmm.
life,
It's true.
is going away. It's
Yeah.
like people are like, oh yeah, there's my kid, or I didn't get my makeup on today because I didn't have time.
Yep.
Whatever it is, I think it's been really good. And then we've made a point also to form a COVID circle. So
Oh, what is
people
that?
who it's like when you really sort of trust another household or another
I
friend
see.
group
Okay.
to stay safe and socially distance wherever they're going, so that when you do come together physically, like we have people to our house and we've had dinner parties in which, I can kind of shift this, but we have a very big
Lovely.
open space.
Yes, that's a dancing studio right
So
there.
yeah, so what we do is then we'll move sort of furniture into that
Mm-hmm.
space, leave the doors and the windows open. And because people that we trust have said that they've been taking care of themselves with COVID, we have we're able to have a little bit of contact.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's important, I mean, being respectful and being careful with everybody. We are humans. We need each
Hmm.
other. We need
Absolutely.
to see somebody face to face. I mean, I've been hugging some of my friends that I know they're being careful.
Hmm.
And it's funny how we take for granted those little things, right? That like
Yeah.
this connection, this face-to-face interaction with somebody. And it's so rewarding. It just makes you feel happy and good. So
Yeah, I think you're so right. And I think, for our clients and your clients and community members, it is a tough time.
it is. Yeah.
And sometimes the tools, like in the same way that Zoom and social media can be reaffirming, it can also make us feel more isolated, because social media by its very nature is about looking great and having the perfect party or the perfect garden or the perfect yoga move.
Yep.
And if you're at home and you aren't able to access that kind of happiness, so it seems,
Mm-hmm.
it can make you feel even lonelier. And I would just say for folks who do feel isolated, that's where it's so important to reach out. And whether it's professional support that you need or just asking for the support from your loved ones is vital. And it's nothing to be embarrassed about. It's a source of strength.
That's right.
To ask people to support us.
Yeah, and I mean, in the past 7-8 months, we've seen the increase of the need for mental health supporters, right? Because like you said earlier, a lot of people, they had some issues before of depression or anxiety, and now it's time 10. And, it is hard to make the first call, but we're here for them. You are there, we're here.
Absolutely.
And I think our community needs to know that there's people to support them.
Yeah. Well, and I would say too, that brings up a really good point that for all the phone calls that we take, the goal for us isn't to necessarily have a new client.
Right.
I mean, if we're a great fit, we are. If we're not, we provide a next step. Right? So we try to provide resources for somebody to get the level of care or the support that they need if we are not an appropriate team. And so I always encourage people, and I know this to be true of your team as well, at Therapy Works, it's like just make the call, and that call may or may not be the right one for you for long term, but I know 100% because obviously you're doing this with us today, but your network is huge.
Right.
And somewhere in that, you do land with the appropriate care that you need.
And that's what we do. When we assess the situation, the therapists do that, and they need a higher level of care, that's where resources like yourself come handy.
Yeah.
Right? And like we always said in Therapy Works, we are better together. We work better that way.
Yeah, that's so true. Well, you all are such an amazing resource for the community. And I know for us, I mean, having moved here from Aspen a little over a year ago, and then COVID happened. So it has been an interesting time for us to be new in a community and introduce who we are to people. And you and Malaya have been, and your whole team have been amazing to us, and we're really very, very grateful for that.
Thank you so much.
It makes a huge difference.
Thank you so much. We feel the same way. Thank you. And what is your go-to-go, like, de-stress thing you do, like a hobby? What do you do to just calm yourself out?
Well, I have a couple. Well, they're not here right now because Clay took them, but we have 3 dogs. And so they are probably my first go-to. We're just playing with them and snuggling their golden doodles. And they each are about, I don't know, between 50 and 70 pounds. It's a wide range, but they're grown dogs. Yes. And then I love to garden. Yeah. But I'm really grateful for
you. And
your reaching out, and
this is
I love seeing your face.
Thanks. So anything else you want to add or information? Where can people reach you? Can you share your contact information?
Absolutely. So my phone number is 310-625-2369. So feel free to call me. Just even if you have questions, happy to take them. And then our website is rootscollaborative.com. And we're also on Instagram and Facebook. And I think the only other thing that I might add is that we also do recovery coaching. So we do coaching for families. We do one-on-one coaching with individuals who need additional support. And we do case management. So those are the other services outside of the invitational intervention with comprehensive care, which is, again, that 6-month follow-up. But, we have all sorts of ways that we can support people in recovery who just need need that extra safety net.
Mm-hmm.
And, many families do, if not most.
That's
So
correct. Thank
we
you,
love what we
Julie.
do.
Yes, you do.
Thank
I
you,
know that.
Neil.
Thank you. And as for us,
So
our philosophy is very simple. We are better together. And everything we do is to support our community and people like you, like me, or everybody there. We understand that making the first call is not easy, but we're here when you're ready. And this is for our community. If you want to learn more about Therapy Works, visit us at mytherapyworks.com. So thank you so much for being here. Julie, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Emil.